Let me walk you through something that most people have never been taught. Because when you hear a story in textbooks, documentaries, or that one-off TikTok where somebody just kind of skims the headlines, they always start with the name Cudjoe Lewis. But I don't, because that wasn't his name. His name was Olule Kasola, son of a Yoruba-speaking village in what is now Benin. A young man raised with culture, family, language, ceremony, identity, all of it intact. Cudjoe Lewis was the name this country slapped on him after they stole him. And once you understand that, the whole story hits differently. Kasola was about 19 when Dahomean warriors raided his village. People were killed, people were taken. He was marched to the port city of Ouida and locked in a barracoon, which was a coastal holding pen for captives waiting to be sold. This is already after the U.S. had banned the importation of enslaved Africans in 1808. But it didn't matter. A white Alabama businessman named Timothy Mayer bet that he could smuggle human beings into this country and never face consequences. So Kasola was forced onto the Clotilda, the last known slave ship to enter the United States. This happened in 1860, not ancient history, not folklore, your great-grandparents' lifetime away. On Mayer-controlled land near Mobile, they stripped away everything they could from him, his homeland, his language, his freedom, and finally, his name. They called him Cudjoe Lewis. Cudjoe, which was a Monday-born label that white enslavers used on African men, and Lewis, the surname of the man who claimed to own him. But inside, he was still Kasola. He never forgot who he was. He worked under enslavement on that land until the Civil War ended, and he remembered every detail when he spoke to Zora Neale Hurston decades later. The raid, the barracoon, the ship, the fire Mayer used to hide the crime, the years stolen from him. And after emancipation, he didn't disappear. He built something. The U.S. didn't offer restitution. Nobody paid for the crime. Nobody sent them home. So Kasola and about 30 other Clotilda survivors did something extraordinary. They saved their wages and pooled their money, and they purchased land from the very family that had trafficked them. On that land, they built Africa Town, their own governance, their own church, their own cemetery, their own cultural memory. In Africa Town, he went back to being Kasola. He farmed, and he worked as a church sexton. He raised children. He told stories in his own language. He kept his people's history alive in a country that was determined to bury it. And what he gave us is priceless. In the 1920s, Zora Neale Hurston sat on his porch and recorded his life in Barracoon. That book holds one of the only first-person accounts of the Middle Passage from somebody who actually lived it and survived it into the 20th century. He died in 1935 in Africa Town, remembered by his community as one of the last known survivors of the Clotilda voyage and one of the architects of the town that they built from nothing but memory and refusal. He wasn't Cudjoe Lewis discovering himself in America. He was Olule Kasola, ripped from his home, renamed by force, illegally enslaved in 1860, and still powerful enough to leave behind a testimony that the U.S. government tried to erase. If you say his story, say his real name first, because reclaiming his name means reclaiming the truth that this country tried and failed to bury. Say his name, Olule Kasola.
Pour yon moun adrese yon esprit qui marche avant, mais qui ça pour faire? C'est un bagage qui simple. Ou besoin yon côté de l'eau, ou besoin yon baleine, ou présenter côté de l'eau dans quatre façades, côté soleil levé, côté soleil couché, dans nord et dans sud. Ou fait deux mandats, et puis le fini, ou déposer baleine ça bon côté ou couché. Ou ka prend yon assiette blanc ou fait yon mèche, ou mettez l'huile là-dedans, ou fait demande là-dedans, ou mandez pour esprit à venir identifier. Parce que ou pas qu'à faire demande là pour dire on va parler avec tel esprit sans qu'on pas connaît qui est vraiment ou besoin communiquer avec là. Ou besoin identifier esprit, ou besoin puis venir parler ensemble avec. Ou faire demande et puis laisse ça esprit à venir parler avec. Et ça moi dit nous c'est un bain qui fait en deux parties. Première partie la gain classe là, comment que n'a pas prendre nous même qui j'en pour faire bain dans moment pas. Ça veut dire que si vous avez pour faire ben comme ça encore dans Méditerranée, ou pas besoin pour pas le payer l'autre comme. Et puis tout, si vous avez pour faire pour l'autre monde, si vous faites bien, vous voulez faire pour une famille, un amis, ou pas faire. Et deuxième partie, c'est bien là. Tout ça me dit là, yo inclus dans même blanc. Et il y a différentes bains, d'abord explication qui j'ai ou même et qui comment ingrédients yo préparé, qui esprit qui marche avec et qui gens qui les plus favorable, les plus bon qui capable d'aider pour demain si Dieu veut pour utile tête.
So New Orleans city officials at City Hall say the party budget for New Orleans Mardi Gras at Gallier Hall is getting a major trim. This comes after $240,000 was spent last year by the previous mayor. I'm Cassie Sherm. I'm an investigative reporter in New Orleans, and here's what's changing at Gallier Hall.
Last year, the administration spent $240,000 on Gallier Hall. We're at $40,000.
So Mayor Helena Moreno's administration is cutting back spending for Mardi Gras festivities at Gallier Hall this year, and the numbers are pretty striking. So according to the city's chief administrative officer, Joe Geruso, the previous administration under LaToya Cantrell spent about $240,000 on Gallier Hall Mardi Gras events just last year. Geruso says at least $15,000 for DJs. This year, the budget has now been cut down to $40,000. Instead of paid DJs, the Moreno administration says it plans to rely on guest DJs.
$15,000 to have DJs for 2 weeks. So what are we going to do? We're going to have guest DJs. We're going to have people from across the city and welcome your input. The other thing, I'll let the cat out of the bag here a little bit, is if you all want to start creating Spotify lists for different days during Mardi Gras, we'll play council members. But seriously, this is the type of environment the mayor is asking us to embrace, which is how do we do something smart? How do we do something collaborative? How do we do something that just makes more sense and is cheaper?
Now, city leaders say this is part of a broader effort to rein in spending as New Orleans faces a $200 million plus budget deficit. Geruso says more announcements are coming about additional cost-cutting measures for Mardi Gras citywide, but for now, this is one of the first visible changes under the new administration. Bottom line, the parades are still rolling, but City Hall says it's time to spend less while the city works to stabilize its finances. Okay, guys, I want to know your thoughts with this one, so let me know. Comment below.
Respect, honor, and respect. Divine all blessed greetings and salutations. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes, powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. This is our third annual New Orleans International Voodoo Day, coming May 23rd and 24th, Saturday and Sunday, May 23rd and 24th, 2026. We continue to invite your support, your participation, volunteership, donations, and sponsorship. Please continue to visit us at www.voodooday.org, www.voodooday.org, voodooday.org, for more information, coming updates about this continuing to grow and expanding event, as well as our new partnership and relationship with the city-state of Ouidah, Benin. We certainly appreciate your continued support and participation, and those who continue to show up live in this Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time podcast. We certainly appreciate you. Greetings and salutations, Apostle Hudson, 1963, love and light to you and yours. To our beloved community member, Daniel Neal, we certainly do appreciate you. Jeff Austin, greetings and salutations. Imani Sankofa, peace and blessings to you and yours. And Ray Alexander, we continue to appreciate your support and participation here live in the chat. And I will be unmuting my beloved co-host, the Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, community activist, community mother, community educator at the grassroots level. Our beloved Elder Reggie Green Soap, the leader and founder of Shrine of the White Cloth, also a committed co-administrator of NOIVD. My beloved godchild, second priest, Tyson Horn, also our executive producer. Respect the Voodoo. No matter what you do, respect the Voodoo. Coming in short order to a network near you, also an initiated member of my house, an initiated member of La Source and Chien on 4, and a committed team member of NOIVD, and our beloved Queen Mother, Sister Bianca Johnson Plessy, committed team member, co-administrator of NOIVD, and an initiated member of La Source Ancien Home 4. We certainly appreciate all of your continued support and participation in this nightly podcast. I know it's quite an endeavor and quite an effort in the middle of your day, in the middle of your week, in the middle of your evening, and we are certainly always grateful and appreciative for your continued support and participation. We really want to kind of pick up and continue where we left off yesterday. We had a really vibrant conversation going about learning, teaching, and preserving Aboriginal African traditional religious systems in a modern Western technological world. When we talk about African traditional religions, Vodou, Voodoo, Hoodoo, Juju, root work, conjure, we are talking about some of the oldest living systems of knowledge on this earth. These traditions survived the Middle Passage, colonialism, forced conversion, cultural erasure, and centuries of misunderstanding. They survived because our ancestors understood something that the modern world often forgets. Knowledge is not just information. Knowledge is relationship. Knowledge is responsibility. Knowledge is earned. And that is where I want to begin tonight, because we are living in a moment where information is everywhere, where wisdom is rare. And we are living in a moment where a person can type, "How do I do a Vodou ritual?" into a search engine and feel like they've learned something. We are living in a moment where AI can generate a paragraph about a Loa or an Orisha faster than a human can blink. And yet, none of that replaces the lived, embodied, rational, accountable living that ATR traditions require. In our tradition, learning is not transactional. It is transformational. It is not, "I read this, therefore I know." It is, "I showed up, I listened, I was corrected, I was humbled, I was shaped." It is apprenticeship. It is a community. It is a lineage and a protocol. Protocol is not a barrier to keep people out. Protocol is the structure that keeps the tradition intact. Protocol is the language through which we show respect to the spirits, to the ancestors, to the elders, and to the land itself. Protocol is how we say, "I understand that this path is older than me, bigger than me, and not mine to distort." But in the modern Western context, protocol is often the first thing people want to skip. We live in a culture that rewards shortcuts, a culture that says, "Why ask a teacher when I can Google it?" A culture that believes access equals entitlement. And so people approach ATR traditions with the same mindset they use for recipes, DIY projects, or trending aesthetics. They want the results without the responsibility. They want the power without the preparation. They want the spirits without the service. And this is where the tension lies. How do we preserve the integrity of ATR traditions in a world that encourages instant answers? How do we teach in a way that is accessible without becoming diluted? And how do we use technology without letting technology use us? The first step is remembering that technology is a tool, not a teacher. AI can summarize, but it cannot initiate. Search engines can point, but they cannot guide. Social media can inspire, but it cannot consecrate. None of these platforms can replace the human relationships that define Aboriginal traditional religious learning. The second step is reclaiming the value of slowness. Reclaiming the value of slowness. In ATR traditions, nothing meaningful happens instantly. You don't become initiated instantly. You don't build a relationship with a spirit instantly. You don't understand the mysteries instantly. Slowness is part of the discipline. Slowness is part of the devotion. Slowness is part of the protection. The third step is teaching people how to ask better questions. Not how do I do this ritual, but who do I need to become to be in right relationship with this tradition? Not what offering do I give, but what is the history, the lineage, the cosmology that shapes this offering? Not how do I get results, but how do I show respect? The fourth step is modeling what responsible public education looks like. We can teach without exposing what is not meant to be public. We can share without betraying the sacred. We can guide without giving away what must be earned. And we can speak clearly about ethics, boundaries, and cultural respect while still protecting the inner chambers of the tradition. And finally, as I ask my beloved co-hosts to gather their thoughts and begin to come in, we must remember that preservation is not just about holding on to the past. Preservation is about ensuring that tradition remains alive, relevant, and rooted. It is about building bridges between continents, between generations, between communities. It is about honoring the historic agreements, like the one signed in New Orleans with the mayor on last year, the one signed in Ouida, Benin this year, that affirmed our global unity and our shared responsibility to carry these traditions forward with dignity. And so, yes, we live in a world where AI and search engines dominate, but we also live in a world where ancestors still speak, where spirits still move, where communities still gather, where traditions still breathe. And as long as we continue to teach with integrity, learn with humility, and practice with respect, ATR traditions will not only survive, they will thrive. Because the spirits are not afraid of technology. They are only concerned with the heart of the person utilizing it. AYIBOBO, Bilolo, Asheo, and Ashe. Please do come in, my beloved co-host. What say you? How you doing?
Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's been a long week. Divine Prince, this is a good conversation, good topic, and is my little 2 cents up front is just I was wondering, some of the other elders on the call, what say you to people that might be out there listening to this, that are not easily able to attend something where there's community. They may live in a town where there's not too many practitioners present. What would be some respectful protocols to try to inquire knowledge, but at the same time, maintaining the integrity of what we talked about and what Divine Prince just spoke on?
To me, they have to go the extra mile to find it. I mean, some people say, well, it's no practitioner I can learn from. It's just 2 hours away. If you really want to learn, you'll go those 2 hours. I mean, I think about all the time we waste on other things like going to the club. And if you really, really want to learn, and also to study from a lot of different angles, maybe you could even find them online and have personal calls with them and y'all could arrange something. But I always say where there's a will, there's a way.
I agree.
Yeah, I'd like to come in,
That's
please.
so true that you that's so true that you said that, because before I had moved back home to Louisiana, I had stayed in Michigan, a little small town named Grand Rapids in Michigan for a couple of years. And I was in a situation like that up north in the area where I was at. It wasn't that much, they had a lot of like pagan and different Caucasian, like they had like their own different, witchery stuff, but they didn't really have a community as far as for Black people, where we can learn from, because a lot of the people was more into the Bible and church and Christianity and Baptist, and it was like they looked at all that type of stuff negative. So just like you said, in order for me to better understand a lot of things without always having to turn to the internet, the closest city to me was Detroit. So I had there was a lot of times that I had to reach out just to see what they had going on in Detroit, like different vendor shows or different classes or meetings and things like that with people who are practicing or teaching the things that we would be into, like in New Orleans. So there was a couple of times in the wintertime that I would travel 2.5 hours to go to Detroit, and I would travel to Chicago too, but Detroit was the closest. And I had met a lot of people in Detroit, and they have a shop named Motown Witch or something, that's owned by that's the Black owned. I think it's a husband and a wife or something that own that. And I know they do a lot of shows and a lot of events, a lot of vendors, and a lot of speaking for talk about spirituality and things that we do in New Orleans. And I know they're great people. And I remember they had took me in for a little bit as far as teaching, learning, and gaining that knowledge before I had traveled back home to Louisiana.
And my thing is too, if you're in a place like New Orleans, where it's kind of a lot of other practitioners, and if I was interested, I would shop around like I do for a doctor, because everybody say they is, that don't mean it. So I would shop around if you have that choice. And even if you stay in a small town and need to go 2 hours, I check north, south, east, and west 2 hours each way. It's like a second opinion, getting a second opinion from a doctor. So I like to shop around, basically.
I'd like to add to the conversation. Good night, everyone. I'm our esteemed panel in the collective chat.
Good night.
Well, what I would like to say first is everybody can do this each morning. Get a cup of water, tap, spring, or whatever, pour it to the dirt, and ask your ancestors to make a way so you could get the information, teachings, and learning that you want. Our ancestors are real. Our ancestors will move mountains out of the way to get you where you need to go. You have to form a relationship with the ancestors. Reading books is good. Traveling is good. But if you don't start a relationship with yourself and your ancestors first, then I can see you're not really connecting to where you're trying to go. So if you live in a small town, a big city, if you just don't feel comfortable with the people providing what you're seeking, try working with your ancestors and it will open a portal that works for you. And that's what I wanted to add.
Good
Thank
point.
you for
Good point.
that.
Good point. Because that kind of, Elder Reggie, that kind of speaks to, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will be made present. I know there's a catchy way of saying that, but you know what I'm talking about as far as like when a person's ready and truly ready to make a change and take a step forward, then a path would be open if they're sincere.
Yes, because just
And
to
you
back
know,
it up, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I just want to add, you know, another 2 cents to the conversation. But I find it interesting how we have these sort of armchair researchers today. You know, oh, well, I did my research on that. I did my study on that. And you walk into these social media, you know, think tanks and podcasts, and people are really speaking with authority and conviction as if they really understand, you know, the principles that even go into adequate, proper research and study. But then at the same token, you know, you get the story, you know, I went to this person, I lost a lot of time and money. I went to that person and lost a lot of time and money. And I often ask, well, what exactly did you do? What exactly were you offered? And rarely can those questions even be answered. So, you know, the self-study, as Elder Reggie so eloquently stressed, first begins just with getting honest and getting real with ourselves and with your ancestors. Our front line of defense, as I was taught and I continue to teach and pass on, our front line of defense are our ancestors. My godmother told me, baby, you just getting by on your ancestors. All that, you know, initiation training, book knowledge, social media exposure, hearsay, gossip, conversation, we just barely getting by on our ancestors, many of us. And so building a foundation in which you can then build a lifestyle that mirrors what's in your best interest. Voodoo, Hoodoo, ATR, all these traditions are ethno-cultural practices, which not only speak to who you are and who your people are and where you came from, but where you live, where you operate regionally. So learning yourself, learning your own roots, learning the environment in which you live is critical to demonstrating any path in these traditions.
Well said, Divine Prince. And I wanted to add, I wanted to build off of that, because as you pour the water to your ancestors and they open a way and show you a way, it's a better way to travel. And I'm not putting down the Nigerians, the brothers from Benin, Ghana, Togo, and none of those places. But trust me, if you go there or if you get with them in the States, let's just say in the greater Atlanta area, for instance, they are charging Americans abnormal prices. It is ridiculous, the prices that they are charging people for the information that they are teaching is just not worth the cost. So that turns off some people too, because they see it as a money grab. And that really grieves my spirit too. That's why I say, please, establish a relationship with your ancestor just by pouring water libations, and the ancestor will guide and navigate you to the teachings, to the places you need to be, and you will not get fleeced. As Divine Prince is saying, people are going to get initiated and then they're returning back not knowing anything, not even knowing how to pour libations. And then just got off a normal amount of money. And that's not fair and that's not right, because their heart was sincere, which led them on this journey, but they wasn't led by spirit. And what spirit is that? The spirit of their ancestors.
That's very true, because once you start doing a lot of research and certain things, your algorithms, you'll have people in your DM talking about, hey, I was led to give you a reading, just send this money through your Cash App and go from there. Divine Prince has had so many times where we've had to, double check and single check. They'll take letters out of his name and add an extra O or add an extra C or D, and next thing you know, you may be sending cash money to somebody that you haven't researched, like Sister Val talked about. You have to really do your due diligence sometimes, and have that front line of defense with your ancestors and your spirit to make sure that you are doing your due diligence in your research, and not just jumping blindly to anybody who might say they have a word for you,
Yes, and this is important. And the last thing I want to build on that, next month, I'm taking a small group to Ghana, and we're going to Ghana. But I have built relationships over the years with the people that I'm taking them to. I'm not saying that they may not get fleeced, but they're not going to get fleeced as much money without having someone like me who's been traveling, who have built relationships there, and trying to get the information the right way, building on precepts and principles. So once people learn and they get back, they have continuous study, continue to walk in the medicine until they can grow and be where they want to be. And they won't just feel like they went on a vacation to Africa and got fleeced. These type things are very, very important. And that's why I appreciate this platform Divine Prince have, because we're allowed to touch upon these subjects. Some people see these as taboo, or don't say nothing, just let them go through the school of hard knocks on their own. And there's no need for that. We are being upfront, we're being honest, and we are trying to teach the community. Yes, we are based in New Orleans, but we are trying to reach out to the collective. And that's what I wanted to add.
And if you have to talk to somebody on the phone, and you reach out to somebody on the phone, and this age in technology, a red flag is that they don't want to do a video call. That's a red flag, because in my own experience, they got about 4 divine princes out there in the metaverse that is not him. I even had one DM me in my inbox talking about, and I'm like, stop playing. I went off, reported him and everything, but that really don't do no good when you try to report a phony somebody who done stole your identity. So a lot of people haven't went anywhere. They're just grabbing somebody's name and giving you a bunch of foolishness. And one of the first things you should ask is, can we have a video call? So you can see if that person's face match that picture you see on the internet. It's so much discovery to do. It's so much investigating to do to get where you want to be. But if you are sincere and want to get there, like Elder Reggie said, the ancestors will guide you to the right ones. They know your heart. They know your heart. I mean, they got so many fraudulent, because this has become big business in this age of technology. People think it's a real easy get over. All they got to do is say some blah, 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 and people will believe it, and they'll make money, and that's all they care about. So you have to protect yourself against that, and the ancestors will guide you.
Ashe.
Yeah, that's just like what like what Divine Prince and Reggie, brother Reggie was saying. A lot of this type of a lot of this is like a process. A lot of people, like you was just saying, AI and internet and everything is taking over, but we still, as humans, still have to have a balance, because a lot of people be so in the rush. Like they're so in the rush to try to, like you said, get initiated, so in the rush to try to get all this information. They so in the rush to try to show things and learn things and all that stuff in skipping all these different steps to knowledge, like skipping different steps by using internet to not kind of like cheat their way to it. But I don't know if they use it to cheat their way to it, because they'll get all the knowledge and they like, oh yeah, I know it all. I got it. I get it. I know it all. I'm ready to go out there and show everyone what I can do, what I can make, and what I can help people on. But at the end of the day, they still skipping the understanding of the foundation to the ancestors, because our ancestors and everything, they run, they still move in a slow pace. They move at their own pace. And just like they move at their own pace, we still have to be able to have patience and still learn and move in that pace, and not just jumping and skipping everywhere to get somewhere.
Well said.
That's right. That's right. And I think that goes back to, New Orleans International Voodoo Day, the May 23rd and May 24th. For people who may not be around community, but are using the internet to familiarize themselves with some of the lingo, some of the verbiage, some of the overall understandings of what goes on in spirit, but then coming to an event like this, so where you can actually come into a public environment, and it's very welcoming. There's a lot of information that's shared there. You can meet people and see things firsthand. There's rituals being performed, but rituals being performed in a way that are open to the public, and you can see it working in Congress Square, and it will help somebody to, so if they're taking that step, like taking that 2-hour drive to get to an event such as an International Voodoo Day in New Orleans, it's just, it speaks to how the community is trying to open up its doors to invite more people in, and not just have the same things where it was like you holding people back because people just having ignorance and not really knowing about what's really going on, but being exposed to it in a good way.
And
Yeah,
we
'cause you
certainly
can meet the
are
right
appreciative
people.
of your continued support and participation of this weeknight podcast, Monday through Friday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, on a social media platform near you, or by way of our QR code in the top right corner of your screen. And we're certainly grateful for our Facebook audience, listeners, and participants by way of my profile, Elder Reggie's profile, his Shrine of the White Cloth group, Sister Toni's profile, her group and page, my groups and page, and certainly Sister Bianca and Tyson Horn. We're certainly appreciative of those who are listening by way of LinkedIn, by way of YouTube, Twitter, X, and always our very faithful and committed Instagram listenership. We certainly are always thankful and appreciative of your support and your listenership. Thank you, Mitchell Graham, for coming by, Cosmos for joining us, L. Animax, thank you for coming through, Inferno Photos, thank you so much, beloved. Whatever, thank you so much for coming through. Again, thank you, Apostle Hudson, for joining us, Nana Anansi for joining us. There are a few other names here, but for some reason I can't scroll up to see and access your name. But I certainly do appreciate you all's continued support and participation, and we look forward to meeting you here again on Monday night at 9 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time, again on a social media platform near you, or by way of the QR code located in the upper right corner of our screen. And always eternally grateful for your support, participation, and the food that you bring to the table, Elder Reggie. Thank you so much.
It's Carnival time in New Orleans. February the 16th is Fat Tuesday, also known as Mardi Gras. Our new moon ritual prayer and application ceremony will occur on the new moon this Sunday, January the 18th at 6:30 p.m. in the zodiac of Capricorn. That location is 710 Cluid Street. We call it Cluid Gardens. It's going to be a ritual spiritual warfare gathering. Please come out and support this event. It's free and open to the public. We have a large selection and variety of Santa Muerte statuary available at the Island of Salvation, Botanica, and that location is 2372 St. Claude Avenue, Suite 100. Mention NOIVD Podcast. Yes. With that, I say, lest we forget. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. We continue to have work to do with the ancestors, with ourselves, and our community as a whole. With that, I say, Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Good night, everyone. You know we love you all, and we really mean that. And we'll be back Monday. Have a blessed weekend.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Mm-hmm.
With your chest, bopping with your chest, moving with your chest, bopping with your chest, working with your chest, mixing with your chest, bopping with your chest,
Allow me to show you something.
They say I'm crazy and that might be true. I got this right in my DNA, yet I'm coming for you. It's time we turn the tables, strip these motherfuckers on you. I wanna see you hanging from trees. It's time you pay for your dirt and your showtime. You created the monster, you created the beast. Now all this savagery you just gon' reap. I'm coming home, daddy, to the plantation, and I'm taking the lives of everybody, including the children, on some Nat Turner. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. I met my girl Harriet at the gate. If you wanna know how she doing, yeah, she's straight. But she had one question: when we gon' get up? All that talking tough, yeah, we don't walk it tough. She got it locked and loaded, got that piece up on her side. She looked me in my eyes and said, "Meet you ready to ride?" Moving forward, you gotta use both eyes. Watch your front and watch your back. Keep your hands up on your gas. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. He sit at the table, but he don't order no bacon. He greet me in those words, assalamu alaikum. Got them glasses on his face and them waves in his head. He go by the name of Detroit Red. He looks me in my eye and says, "You only get one try. Know that your biggest opposition will come from the inside. I know you wanna love them all, but don't even try, because they'll smile up in your face while plotting your demise." Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. Do you hear that sound? It's about to go down. Unleash the beast, we about to tear this motherfucker down. We are the children of the ancestors that weren't